122 years ago, an anomaly began taking place, and the only people that would have been maybe aware of it at that point in time would have been less than 0.01%. These would have been the mariners that relied on the magnetic North Pole for their navigation, not knowing what implications this anomaly of migration of the magnetic North Pole would unfold. This anomaly would continue until the 1950s, until science would branch off into various areas that would cover such anomalies as the magnetic pole migration. It was around about the 1950s that it was made aware that the poles were migrating, not knowing truly the implications that were involved in that migration. And then we get to the 1990s, when something, you could argue, spectacularly erupted. It was a large acceleration in the magnetic pole migration, a noticeable increase in speed over time of the migration of the magnetic North Pole, speeding up over the northern hemisphere, and at that same time an increased awareness of the true implications that were involved in the migration. 122 years after the initial up-anchoring of the magnetic North Pole migrating over the northern hemisphere, we arrive at a point in time where human beings have widely expanded into the field of technologies and sciences that most universities on this planet are aware of the magnetic pole migration, but still unaware of the true implications involved in a planet going through such an anomaly. And for the first time for over 780,000 years, we're here today witnessing a very rare event, and the implications involved in that event are vast. To this day, we know for sure it is responsible for an increase in cardiac arrest. We also know it's responsible for an increase in carcinogenic increases, so it causes cancer as a result of the increase in cosmic rays. It's not just the carcinogenic causing cancer cosmic rays that we have to worry about, or the cardiac arrhythmias, altering frequencies that affect our regular heartbeats, that is on the increase as a direct result of extra inbound cosmic radiation as a result of a magnetic pole migrating on our planet, as a result of a weakening magnetosphere. It's the effects on our planet at a time that we are at right now. Nearly 8 billion souls living and trying to survive on a planet going through turmoil. We've been in the business for over 10 years now, studying this anomaly, the pole shift, or the magnetic pole migration, and all the other anomalies that are attached to it, like the fracturing of the polar and subtropical jet streams both over the northern and southern hemispheres. We've been in this business. We've built bespoke equipment to closely monitor, the magnetic North Pole position as it migrates over the northern hemisphere, tracking it every 3 seconds. I am quite proud to say that we have only one inexistent Trimag system. There is only one on this earth today that does exactly what our Trimag does. I mentioned that to somebody the other day, and I've been using the Trimag system now for 4 years, and it's very reliable, we put all that into the design of it, and they were saying like, well, there isn't another system. It was like they thought that these things could be just brought off the shelf, and they can't. That's where we ran into that trouble 4 years ago. When I looked into employing a electronics manufacturer to build the equipment for us, they was talking about electronic engineers needed to be involved in, project managers, programmers, and they were talking, telephone numbers, hundreds of thousands of pounds. And I don't know whether some of you guys remember when we was in that early development stage of the TriMag system, what we was actually experiencing. It was dark days, many dark days, and on a lot of occasions I thought we was never going to get there in the building of that equipment. We had friends that worked in Langley that were far more superior programmers than me, that turned round to me on that one night, I remember, and said, Gene, I'm sorry buddy, I don't know why it's not working. It should be working with what we've done. It should be recording onto the SD card now, and it just isn't. And I said, well, the only thing I could say at that point was, I could only thank you for the effort and time that you'd invested. Justin, if you're out there listening to this, I am totally and truly grateful for the help that you give and the time that you'd invested yourself in that, trying to debug what we was having, those problems when we was programming the TriMag. And after the phone call ended, I'll just say this: I was left in limbo. I didn't know whether the project was going to come to an end at that point. But I continued trying to debug it, and weeks after that, I'd managed to get the TriMag system spitting out some information that was recorded onto the SD card, and that was the furthest they'd ever gone with it. It wasn't the information that we wanted and the data that we wanted that to be written onto the SD cards, but it was some data, and I knew that there was a little glimmer of hope. And just through persistently debugging every little problem, we were able to eventually arrive at that point in time where it was doing exactly what we wanted it to do. And I didn't take the short route here, guys. I didn't. If you were with me 4 years ago when we was doing all this, it was snail pace, baby steps, all the way through to the point in time where we are right now, to reliably obtaining data every 3 seconds and recording it. We have over 500,000 data sets, date time stamped with the heading of the magnetic North Pole to this day, and we have them, thankfully, for the last 4 years. So we've got there, but it didn't come easy, and this is what people don't understand. It was, first of all, the pain of putting myself through the learning of the electronics and the components, putting them together, and then also, the pain of recording the data, getting it to put it on a platform where it would record those 500,000 results every month. We've got it now. We've got a dedicated website which has been updated for you guys to keep you informed of this anomaly, because 98% of the population on this planet are to this day still in the dark about what is taking place. That for me is alarming. And we talk about it even today, and we'll get the silly people make stupid comments, and why they're doing it, and those are on the increase. But we've got to move beyond that and push it to the side and realise that what we're trying to do here is inform people of how important this event is. I am Gene Beards, a British scientist, qualified more in this area than any other area, than a lot of other scientists. We have learned a lot in those 10 years. And, we are the only independent observatory that is dedicated to informing the public, and we do not make a profit here. We do not charge for the information or the data. We ask merely for, donations to keep it going. If this observatory disappeared tomorrow, there wouldn't be another informative website notifying you of the current changes in what is taking place on your Earth. And what we found is the importance of this topic, the anomaly, has so many impacts on every environmental and climatal anomaly that takes place. We know it affects the jet streams. We know when the jet streams are affected, how they affect, all our daily lives. For some in the agricultural business, they are aware of what's happening. And then back down to the every individual person, when they go to the shops and they see the cost of food going up, it's down to some simple things. We are on a planet where there has never been so many people alive on there, 8 billion souls, and they need feeding. And we need to rely on, seasons where we get our crops into the ground and get them out of the ground and into the shops. And then if something affects those seasons, like the modification of the jet streams as a result of increased cosmic rays, then obviously it is going to filter down through the chain and affect everybody in their own living rooms. That's what we're trying to do here. And it's only been made possible through a very few people that have stepped forward and supported us. And for those people that have been supporting us over the last few days, you really need to look in the mirror and say to yourselves, you are proactively trying to help. And you are definitely doing that. You need to give yourself a little pat on the back. The implications of what we do and deal with here at the observatory are massive. People can't comprehend when you start telling them what exactly is happening on our Earth right now. That's why we put the effort in. I've sacrificed so much for this, to keep people informed, because this, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the biggest game changer humanity will ever face. And we are, right now, dealing with it. And this anomaly is on the increase. It hasn't stopped migrating. You'll see in a few moments where we are today with the pole migration and its location and the longitude and latitude of its position. We're over at our dedicated website, and as you can see, the latest TriMag data has been updated to the website, and all I'm going to ask you to do is have a look at it and compare it to the previous data that we've installed. It's obvious, it's in a format that anyone can just at a glance see what is happening today with the magnetic North Pole. And that is likewise for the magnetosphere data that we've collected. Go and have a look. There is a noticeable change. I'm putting you in the driving seat today, and I'm asking you to, determine whether something is increasing or not in the, migration of the magnetic North Pole. Is there something we should be concerned about? I believe if you invest a little bit of time in checking that out, you'll find those answers. But for most of you, you'll want to know how far the magnetic North Pole has migrated in the last month. So let's get on with that. So the longitude and latitude has obviously changed as a result of the migration being a further 5.1 miles over the North Mid-Atlantic Ridge, giving us a longitude and latitude of latitude 82 degrees 30 hours 22 minutes 37 seconds north by a longitude of 118 degrees 47 hours 53 minutes 45 seconds east. Still an indication of the magnetic North Pole, showing an increase in pace by an average of 1 mile since 2021. It is still heading easterly towards our 40-degree mark, and I'll just show you where that is in conjunction with our corridor showing the Atlantic Ridge. I'll just remove that. Clear that off and then zoom out so you get an idea. You can see we're well over that Mid-Atlantic Ridge now, over the Northern Hemisphere, and you can see the corridor indicated by the white and yellow line tracking its position still towards just below the Arctic Circle in Russia. That's where the magnetic North Pole is heading. But more importantly, we are moving towards that 40-degree mark now, all that more closely, where we anticipate there will be some dramatic changes when we hit that point. You know, we should be leaving the strong magnetic field lines where we migrate slowly and entering the weak field lines where the magnetic North Pole will migrate much faster. And as a result of that, our magnetosphere will collapse. It is not known whether it will collapse completely, but we're at 20% loss at the moment. You know, if we suffer any further loss on what we have already, then you can imagine what will be the implications of that. You know, cosmic rays will be on the increase. They will further modify the jet streams, what we're experiencing now. We've got subtropical and polar interactions. You know, we're seeing tropical interactions around the equatorial region of our planet, causing chaos. You know, you could just do a daily update on the floods, you know, the droughts, the extensive Arctic conditions not experienced in some parts of continents for hundreds of years, breaking lots of records. You know, what this is doing is sending the food production offline at a slow rate right now. When we cross that line, it's going to be new territory. We don't know what to expect. That's why we're trying to anticipate what we are all aligning ourselves up for in the not too distant future. Guys, I will apologise because, you know, this update is usually done on the 17th of every month. All the work was done for the update yesterday, but, you know, it was Easter Sunday, and, you know, I was summoned to the families, both mine and my partners, and, you know, trying to share our time with all of our loved ones like you should be doing right now. It really is a time where, you know, we look at films like Don't Look Up and recognise the similarities in what we are trying to tell people to do, because, you know, we are faced with all these impacts of these changes and how they affect all of our lives, you know, on a daily basis. You know, it's almost unreal when you watch a film like that and you realise that, you know, the same attitude exists. People just don't believe it until they see it, or don't believe until it is actually affecting them. And I've pointed this out many times to you guys. How many times have I saw and heard a person say, I never thought this would happen to me, having just survived, torrents of water wash away their homes where they'd lived in there for 50 odd years, wash away their entire lives. This is exactly the same thing that we all face. I said before, and I'm going to say it again, it is just a matter of luck right now that we are still enjoying our bacon and eggs. And when we surpass that 40-degree mark, it might not be the case for even ourselves. So it is massively recommended that you take some form of provisions. Bug out bag, something simple you can chuck on your back. You can purify water, you've got an emergency shelter, you've got some medical provisions in there, maybe a first aid kit, whatever. Small amount of food, maybe 3 months. If you can afford it, expand that. Because as you see, like clockwork, like the seconds ticking round on the hour clock, this anomaly is continuing to get worse, and we, my friends, have not hit equilibrium yet. We've not even got to that 40-degree mark. We've not got to the point where the magnetic North Pole has left them strong field lines and entered them weak field lines. Guys, the only way we can continue doing this is by your support. And we need to get serious. We have less than 11 months. And 98% of the population on this planet are vulnerable simply because they don't know what's going on. Our aim is to inform as many as we can. The only way we can do that is by being supported with some finance and, being supported on YouTube with people liking and thumbing up the video. I have never asked anyone to subscribe to this channel, I believe, ever. But I'm going to start doing that. I want you to subscribe if you've seen this for the first time. Just bear with us, because you will learn about the changes that are going to take place on your earth. Tell your family about this. Start engaging in the conversations and letting them know. Say, if you want to, have you saw that film, Don't Look Up? Well, let me tell you then, after that, if whatever the reactions are to that, just say, there is an anomaly taking place right now. A rare anomaly that hasn't took place for the last 780,000 years on our planet. Capture their attention, capture their imagination, let them know what they face. Guys, you have an amazing Easter holiday, and as always, you take care of your loved ones. We will be back in the coming days with further updates surrounding this anomaly and other anomalies. I'm sure they'll be of interest to you. Come back. Link down there if you want to help support us. Be a proactive person. We went through a lot of trouble here at the observatory to make sure you get this information. Give a little back. The link's there if you want to help support us. It is not mandatory. This is a voluntary thing. It's down to you at the end of the day. The link is there. Guys, as always, bye for now.